So that's just a kryptonite cable lock that's wrapped around the front wheel. So my trusty bolt cutter. Alright, so we're just gonna go ahead and snip it. And that's gone. We'll hide the evidence. And oop, there it is. A lot of times you leave that behind. And it's gone. Hello and welcome to Random Things. This is Ty, and for this video I want to talk about how you lock your bike up, because right now e-bike thefts is on the rise. It's actually really rampant because thieves are finding it very lucrative to steal these bikes because they're so expensive, and a lot of times people don't lock them up properly, either with the wrong type of locks, which you saw in the intro video. They simply just use a cable lock, which I can cut pretty easily with a bolt cutter that I can just hide and carry with me in a backpack, or they lock it up improperly. So again, the focus of this video is how to lock your bike up properly. So we get these bikes and we get these beefy chains, but sometimes we get a little lazy and we don't lock it up correctly, in the sense that we are locking it up through the carrying bar. So I suppose they can cut this, but what's easy to cut in this particular example is I can just cut the chain link fence, right? I don't need to cut this chain, because I know that I can't cut this very well with this, but I can cut this chain link pretty easily and walk it away. Now I'm not going to cut the chain link fence because I'm not going to destroy private property for the example, but I'm just kind of let you know, if I can cut through this cable like butter, I can cut through that chain link pretty easily. Right? And then once I cut through that chain link, I just have to tuck this away, right? I'll leave the chain on the bike, wrap it up somehow, and then ride away. And once I get home, then I'll take my time with the grinder and cut off the chain. Now I have the bike, right? So this is where locking the bike up improperly will cause you to lose your bike. It doesn't matter that you have a nice chain. So now I get it. Sometimes you can't always lock it up at a bike rack. And so what can you do? Well, in this particular example, what we can do is, instead of locking it up to the actual link, the chain link fence itself, lock it to the pole, right? It's going to be a lot harder for the thieves to cut the pole than to cut the chain link fence, right? Okay, so a better way to lock this bike up would be to actually move the chain so that it's through a major portion of the frame, right, as well as a hard to cut pole, and then you can go ahead and lock it up that way. That way they have to cut through either the pole, the chain, or cut the bike in half. So in reality, what's happening is you're making it difficult for them to choose your bike as a target, and they will find another bike that is an easier target. So let's talk about other ways to lock this bike up at a bike rack. Here's another example of how a bike is improperly locked. And this is actually what happened to me. This is how I locked my bike up when I went to the pier to have lunch with my kids, because I was in a rush and I was in a grumpy mood. I locked it up very lazily because I had the kids do it. And all I did was wrap it through the lifting bar, and then the chain, the cable chain, the cheap cable chain, went through the bike rack. Even though I had a U-lock, I just used it simply like a padlock, and it just sat on the ground like this. And when it's like this, what makes it simple is a thief can come in with a bolt cutter and just go ahead and cut the cable. The other thing is, even if I didn't have a cable lock, let's say I used a chain. One of the problems with this locking way is that the chain is very low, and that allows the thief to use the tool in such a way that they can leverage it against the ground, right, and put leverage on it. Because If I'm just using my chest muscles, if it's up high, there's only so much I can cut. But if it's low on the ground, I can actually leave it on the ground and use it as leverage, and then I can cut an actual pretty thick chain. And I have a separate video on how I cut an actual chain. And so low on the ground is bad. You want to higher up. So this is a wrong way of using a U-lock with a cable. Okay, so let's talk about what is the right way. So a lot of times when you buy a U-lock, it comes with a cable, and you kind of ask, well, what's the point of the cable then if it's so easy to cut? Well, one of the things that happens is sometimes people steal the wheel, especially like say on the road bike. They have really fancy wheels and they have a real easy quick release bike hub, and so they can actually just pull the bike wheel off. So the idea is that it's to lock the frame to a bike rack and then use the chain to kind of secure, say, your wheels. So let me show you how to, a more proper way would be to then use the U-lock, right? Run it through the frame and the bike rack, right? And then now you can run the cable, say, through the bike rack itself as well, through the tire, back into the U-lock, right? And then so now the U-lock is around the frame of the bike rack, and then the cable itself is just there to protect the tire and just add a protection. It's not necessarily the cable that's saving the bike, it's the U-lock, which is harder to cut. And again, because it's higher up, I can't get leverage on it, so I will have to use my arm muscles. And even with a 36-inch bolt cutter, which is a pretty beefy piece of bolt cutter, it'd be still very difficult, if not impossible, at least for me. Okay, so now we've talked about what is the more proper way to use a U-lock and how to secure it against a bike rack. And I say the proper way because I realized I was saying the right way. And I don't want to say the right way because I just have a more preferred way of using my U-lock. Because I want to say, you know, the bike manufacturer or the lock manufacturer may tell me I'm doing it wrong too. So at least this is my preferred way of using the U-lock. Okay, the one thing I will note is that I'm not talking about lock picking, right? There's a guy, he's the lock picking lawyer. The guy is pretty amazing. And it seems like he can like pick anything. And so we're not specifically talking about lock picking. We're just talking about a theft attack using like a bolt cutter. And so locking your bike up this way, I think it's a lot more secure way and proper way of protecting your bike from thieves. So with that, I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, please hit the like and share button. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. That would really help me out. As always, I thank you for watching this video, and I will see you on the next video, which is part of a series of videos on how to properly secure your bike.